absolutely critical to know exactly what your job is so you can avoid scope creep and so that you can ensure that you'll never be overworked and underpaid at work. I'm Ashley. I'm the lead mentor with Mentor Me. And so often professional women are not clear on what their job is, which leads to being overworked and underpaid at work. And let me know if you can relate, right? Type a yes in the comment section, raise your hand, give a thumbs up. So often professional women, if you ask them what their job is at work, they're like, well, I do this and I do this and I do this, but I also been doing this job. My boss got me doing this. Last week I had to help out on this project or that project. And there's an absolute constant frustration, overwhelm, annoyance with the fact that so many professional women are not only doing their job, but they're doing 2 or 3 other people's jobs at work. And let me know if you can relate. If you have found yourself over the last year, right? Think back. If at any point in the last year, you found yourself assigned a project that was out of scope for your job, assigned to supervise or lead a team that was out of scope for your responsibilities, asked to do something that you're not being paid for, but that you were asked to chip in on anyway, right? The reason why this often happens is because employers are short-staffed. Employers maybe are experiencing high turnover. Lots of people quitting, leaving the organization. So they turn to reliable old you and they say, hey, reliable, hardworking person who already works here, can you do X, Y, and Z extra and pick up some slack? Can you be a team player and do this other thing? Can you take on an additional project? Miss Fox 02 said most definitely, right? So it happens. And you think, well, let me be a team player. Let me help out. Let me, alleviate my boss's stress or overwhelm. Let me do this work. But often what happens, right, is that you end up being a mule. You are overworked, underpaid, undervalued, frustrated, annoyed, disappointed, all because you've taken on all this additional work with no additional compensation. Right? And this is not just a problem of being overworked and underpaid. What you may not realize is that when you are out of scope for your job, right? When your job description is one thing, but you're doing a totally different thing, you're also losing credibility. You are losing credibility, right? So your job is one thing, but you out here doing this, this, and this. People are like, who is that? Why is she doing all of that? You have all this responsibility, but no authority, right? Right. And this is why it's so hard for you to move up. And this is why it's so hard for you to secure a higher level role. This is why it's so hard for you to secure a higher level job, because when you go on job interviews, nobody believes you because your job description says one thing and you go on the interview talking about, well, I did this, I did that, I did. It's like, well, that doesn't align with what your job says it is. So how is that possible? Right. It is critical that when we are at work, we stay within the scope of our work. And if you start to experience scope creep, right? If you start to experience that your job, your boss, your supervisor, your team lead is asking you to do this and this and this and this and this out of scope, that you ask for a raise and a promotion, right? Why? Why is that critically important? Because without asking for that raise or promotion, you cannot elevate your career and secure long-term compensation, because no one will believe you because you're a coordinator doing director level work, or you're an assistant director doing executive director level work, right? So it's really critically important that you stay within the scope of your job. And at any point that the scope creeps, that you ask for a raise or promotion. Recently, I talked to one of my mentees. She recently secured a raise her promotion. She came to me to get executive coaching to make sure that she could, sustain and support this new promotion. As her mentor, I'm so proud of her. I'm so excited for her recent raise and promotion. And I'm excited to coach her to really make sure that she builds some sustainability in her career based on this new position. So, in this new role, the job posting said that she would be supervising and leading a team of people. And, I was coaching her on how to really position herself as the best supervisor, how to make sure that she's getting the most out of her staff, how she's learning to understand what their needs are and how she can best support them in being successful in their roles, right? Like, coaching her through that. And we sort of developed a plan of outreach and, their first one-on-ones and setting that up and all that stuff. And then she came to me and she was like, you know what, Ashley? I'm not these people's supervisor. And I was like, wait a minute, Naomi, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean you're not their supervisor? And she's like, yeah, well, I know it says on this job posting and on my job description that I supervise them, but really it's just kind of like if they have questions, they can come to me. And I'm like, what? I'm like mind blown. I'm like, well, that's not what a supervisor is. A supervisor is someone who provides direction and support and an outline of work and a role, right? That's what a supervisor is. A supervisor is not, you can come to me if you have questions. So it's either one or it's the other, but it ain't both, right? So I'm like, what do you mean? And she's like, yeah, my boss told me that even though the job description says that I supervise these people, I really just am there to answer their questions. And so I said, oh, well, the whole game has changed, right? The entire game has changed. If you received a raise and a promotion that said that you were now the supervisor and leader of people, like that's what the new job description says, but your boss told you that you really don't supervise them, you're just there to answer their questions if they have them, then girl, listen, you've lucked up because now you're being paid and you have a title of someone who is paid to lead and provide direction and support, and it's outlined that they do that. But you don't even do that. And while it's great that you're being paid more to do less, it's not great for your overall growth and development as a professional, because now you have a lead role, right? The job title says lead, but you're not actually leading anything. You have a title, but you have no authority. You have no power, essentially, right? And that's a problem, right? And, it can work the other way as well. Say your boss comes to you and they say, hey, Katrina, we're short staffed. We just had a couple staff members leave. And so we're going to need you to, pick up this other person's caseload. And also, we are going to be hiring some new staff. So we'll need your support in onboarding and training them until they get up to speed, right? This is a great developmental opportunity for you. Now you're in a role, you're taking on additional work, and you're going to be a training and supervision lead for new staff members. That's great. But that's something that you should be compensated for, right? This is not a situation where you just say, oh, great, happy to take that on. And then in 2 months in, you're complaining that you're overworked and underpaid and they don't value you and they don't appreciate you and you're frustrated and now you're looking for a new job. The correct thing is, thank you so much for the opportunity, or thank you so much for seeing my value and seeing that I can contribute more. And also seeing, how I have expertise in training and onboarding new staff. I'm excited to support the organization with those responsibilities. What is the compensation related to taking on additional work as well as serving as a training and onboarding professional to these new team members, right? That's the question. Right. And so it's very important that we are not just blindly letting our scope of work creep without asking for additional compensation. Right. And the why is not just so you can be paid more, right? While that is valuable, and I want you to be earning more money, right, as your scope of work increases, but also because it's important for your career development. If you are taking on new responsibilities, learning new skills, practicing new skills, engaging with new stakeholders, if you're doing that kind of work, then you want to make sure that that's documented with a higher level role, with a higher level title, with the salary increase for your own career development and progression. So it's time to reflect and ask yourself, what's your job again? What does it say you do on paper? Are you doing that? Are you doing more than that? How is doing more than that hurting your career, right? And how can you not just abandon your organization and say, I'm not doing nothing else, I'm not doing more than my job, right? I'm not saying you do that. What I am saying you do is to say, I do have the capacity and interest to do more, and I should be compensated for that. I should receive a title aligned with that, and to advocate for that right now. If you need specific strategies on the why, when, where, how much conversation around asking for a salary increase, refer back to my latest video where I go through how to be clear, confident, and concise in asking for a raise at work. Thanks so much for watching. Ask yourself, what's your job again, and avoid scope creep. See you soon. Bye.